Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. I hope you have enjoyed the summit so far. My name is Destiny Miller. I am an executive assistant at Course Hero, and I am very excited to welcome you to the session, A Teacher's Guide to Critical Reflection, which will be led by Brian Steinberg. We hope the session will inspire folks to share ideas with one another throughout the session. We welcome questions, comments, and feedback in the chat. Just a little introduction on Brian. Brian Steinberg has spent more than 20 years or has more than 20 years of academic, student affairs, and corporate experience. He has managed residency halls and apartments, advised multicultural international students, and has taught geography, cultural diversity, college orientation, student success, environmental science, sociology, and technology courses at many campuses and online colleges and universities. His research interests are in diversity and multicultural educational research, theory and practice, as well as creating and presenting on how to create ally safe zones on college campuses, organizations, institutions, and in the workplace. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Okay, so welcome everyone. Kind of real fast, what do I do in my many different lives? My day job is basically teaching middle school and high school science. And then my other life is basically teaching mostly online at Geneseo in New York State. That's where I currently am. And at Southern New Hampshire University, probably one of the bigger schools I teach for, but I also do a lot of online community colleges here and there, and all levels. So I always like to say that I'm and I work with like even elementary students. Like I'll do like recess and small science lessons for like first graders and kindergarten. So I see the whole, I say pre-K to almost PhD sometimes online. So I love it. I love educating all people. So without any further, enough about me. Okay, so this session, I'll get to the meaning of the session because it went through couple changes as I started creating the presentation. So basically it's about critical reflection. It is a process of examining one's own teaching practice in order to identify strengths and weaknesses. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you if you want to read it, but basically just to find out how can you be a better teacher, of course. And I always think about that. To be a teacher, you're always a student as well. You're always teaching, but a lot of times we're just evaluated by, let's say, the dean at the college level or the principal at the K through 12 level. But how much do you actually just reflect on yourself? How can you do that? Not a lot of people do that. You sometimes you get other teachers to come in, but most of the time it's planned. It's part of the process. But do you do anything on your own to kind of self-reflect? In this case, critically reflect on your own teaching style. And I'll give you some ideas. Some of you might have done this. And also, I'm curious to see what other people have done. I did a lot of research on this. Some of the stuff I did for years. Some of it I just started doing within the last year, and just amazing. I could, for example, real quickly, recording yourself teaching. It's something I never, I don't know if I was a little nervous to do that. I had it done before. I had students that kind of did it for me, or unintentionally they just did it because, let's say, someone wasn't in the class, and it gets a little controversial. You ask the professor, I've seen this in college, can I use back then we didn't have cell phones, I'm old. Tape recorders, I think it up, but now you have phones and stuff like that. So usually you have to ask permission. Some students will ask permission. I've seen that before when I taught face-to-face. So kind of an intro there to that. Basically the learning objectives is hopefully you come out of this with some ideas how you can self-reflect, critically reflect on yourself as a teacher, and kind of see the things that you never saw before. I always think of like movies, like a classic movie, Airplane. Certain movies where you watch it, and every time you watch it, you see something new that you never saw before. Kind of like Easter eggs. I have a couple I put in here for that reason. You always see something like, oh wow, I never saw it before. Or when I talk about this, after I'm done with this presentation, maybe tomorrow when it's available, I'll go back and say, why did I say it that way? It's constant, and that's usually people don't do that. They don't like seeing themselves, present, or they get nervous, and I don't like the way I look, that kind of thing. So you have to kind of get over that once you start doing a lot of it. You don't want to get to the point where, I just don't care. You don't want to get, some people do that. You don't want to do that either. So kind of find the balance in the middle there with that. So here's a slide I kind of created last minute to think about. Okay, my original, when I started making the presentation, it was actually called Modeling Critical Reflection in Teaching. And then it was changed to, which I like better, A Teacher's Guide to Critical Reflection. And I kind of took the word critical reflection. What does that mean? And in different contexts. And then, are we critically reflecting upon yourself as a teacher, myself as a teacher? Yes, of course. But there's also something called reflective teaching. So it's kind of goes back and forth. I went through all kinds of different definitions of the two, and I'm like, what should I focus on? And I like both, actually. So critical reflection in teaching to A Teacher's Guide to Critical Reflection. So I'm basically trying to give you a lot of takeaways from this session in ways that you can critically reflect on yourself and obviously become a more reflective teacher. Reflective teaching. What is reflective teaching? So there's a lot it can go with here. Lots of different arrows and where, it's kind of playing wordsmith. That's what I was doing when I first started thinking, what should I do this, how should I approach this topic? Because it's kind of broad. So I kind of went a little bit all over the place, but I kind of focused on, okay, what are some takeaways? You could read all this information. I'm gonna give you all these different resources, but and then kind of my experience, and I'm also very interested in what the audience, everyone else thinks about this topic. That's where I'm headed right now, because I think I'm talking too much. I tend to babble. So with that, a couple resources. This is a book I actually read over the last month, and it really, I just saw it come up because I was researching the research. I'm like, wow. So it's called Becoming a Critically Reflective Teacher. And it just gives you lots of great ideas and lots of good stuff. So with that, so I'm kind of giving you this guide, how to become a reflective teacher, a complete guide. So I took a lot of things from different sources I found online. So again, going back to what I said earlier, what is reflective teaching? So when you hear that term, what comes to mind? So with that, sorry for the quote, and then I promise we'll get to that next. There's the next slide. So here's a great quote from Balastair Grishishian. Self-reflection is a school of wisdom. And then I got a good quote from Renard. This is a great website I have a lot of information from. If you reflect on yourself, you'll enter the gates of wisdom, or the school gate. And then learning is what your students do in school, but not only the students are there to learn, the teacher is too. That's what I kind of said earlier when I opened up. Is the best teachers are the best students. I think about all the best students, the best teachers. I mean, tutoring and it goes both ways. I always want to think about that student centered, and it's a great model to use where students are flipping the classroom idea. There you go with that. Then become a better version of yourself. You're always improving. You're never done. You never finished. I always think of a joke I should have put in there. I just thought of it. A slide where I think it was a commercial too, where they say, I finished the internet. People always want to get done with things. It goes on forever. You're never done. You're never done teaching. You're never the master teacher. It never ends. If you think it ends, then maybe it's time to, I'm gonna get into that, but retire. But you should always be learning. Even when you retire, I don't think I'm ever gonna retire. I'll probably go back to maybe more part-time teaching and still helping. I never want to stop learning. So that's kind of a good story to tell with that. So without any further, in the chat, please respond to the following questions. What does critical reflection mean to you? And give some examples. What are some things that you've done to be more, reflective teaching, be more critical reflection? And I'll start looking at the chat here. Are there any good things here? case studies. Kathleen said that. Good. Yeah, there are lots of case studies. I like that. Feedback from the students. I have that coming. So a lot of things I'm going to go over. I'm glad that you're bringing them up first. That's really, really good. So I'm not have to go into too much depth. I mean, a lot of you understand this. Wow, we're flying here. Let me just open the chat. Wow, lots of great things here. 1 second. Participants. Okay, yeah, my chat's much bigger now. Okay, so kind of the questions you ask. I'm seeing some of the questions here. Some of the questions that you ask yourself, your students, lots of surveys, with like Google Forms. You could, Sheets, Docs. That's a great way. I've really started using that as well. It's sometimes students get a little carried away. They use we open up a Google Doc, and it's not a set chat, and that you gotta be prepared for that. I like to do more of that live so I can see it and control it. Because if you just let it go open, when we're not at school, like at night, students just take an opportunity to, get in trouble, basically. So you got to be careful of that, kind of close it off. But it's great. All feedback is good. Constructive, of course. When I see the word critical, when I first started teaching online, and learned how to teach online, this is probably circa 2006, 2007, when I was working on my PhD online. They kept using the word critical, critical feedback. I just always liked, when I think of critical, I think of something bad. I know we use that term a lot, but constructive. That's what when I was being taught to give feedback online, feedback in general. To use the word critical feedback, more constructive. I like the word constructive, or make sure it's more helpful. Wow, there's a lot of things here. Let's see. Anything else? Looking for trends and patterns here. From student feedback. Yeah, really look at the student feedback. There's a couple exit tickets. That's a big one too. And a lot of people use that, either a piece of paper to jot down, or, we give a link at the end of every class period. And then, if students have the one-to-one, let's say Chromebook program or something like that, iPads or whatever, something like that, and you could see their name, and then their name will flash, and they can only leave when their name flashes on the big board because they gave, feedback. You don't want to also be careful, because you don't want to force the feedback, because then they'll just write anything to write anything. You want to be careful of that too. I know feedback is important, but sometimes it's just you don't want that kind of feedback. So you want to make sure they're engaged. They want to give feedback. That's key that I've learned over the years as well. Example of the work. Yeah. Let's see. Something I've been doing more recently is I've used, during the pandemic, I used Google Classroom a lot. And I found that there's a lot of issues where from year to year, and archiving it. And a lot of times students will, I don't know, I don't know if the pandemic did something to Google Classroom, but what I did is I created a big class website. For all my classes to share, there's chats and everything's on there. Everything kind of transparent, where everything I'm doing is there. On one thing where people in my biology class, let's say in high school biology class in Google Classroom, they can't see the other classrooms. If you do give that, then it's a lot. So kind of one-stop shop website. I've done a little bit of that. That's been helpful. Something new I tried the past year to move kind of away from Google Classroom a little bit. Just kind of an experiment. I like that. I'm finding myself getting more feedback that way too, from the website, because students see everything that I'm teaching. They see the correlation, even though, let's say, they're taking earth science, they can see what biology is doing, because maybe they're taking biology next year, but they see the correlation. And then also feedback, they see other students' feedback, and, sometimes it scares them, let's say, my physics class, a lot of students look in there and should I be taking physics next year? And that looks too hard, but, if you make it look, make it look more fun, and that we're dealing with roller coasters, and, we get to go to, Six Flags and learn about the actual roller coaster. They see that. So it's kind of interesting with that. Anything else? So there's a lot of question everything. I love that. Why ask why? Yeah. You know what? If I'm going to stop right here. If anything else comes to mind, I know I'm at 2:15, so I want to go over a couple more things, but kind of go back to actual questions that people have, and that'd be toward the end. Let me just double check. Wow, that's a great. I got a good thing this is being recorded because I want to go back and get some great ideas from you guys. Wow, this is really neat. Okay, yeah, I could read this for hours. Okay, all right. So, because we're talking about reflection, reflecting on each other and students, and that's what it's all about. So, going back to the slide deck here. Okay, so this is kind of what I've gathered from some of the research, mostly from Renard 2023. Reflective teaching means that you take a look at what you do in your classroom and think about why you do it. Then think about whether this works for you, for your students and for yourself. And it's important because that's how we grow. That's how you become, a better teacher. Experiment, take risks. I always do that. Like I mentioned before, moving away from maybe Google Classroom and then maybe to like a website. And then if that doesn't work, okay, let's go back to Google Classroom. Don't be afraid. Don't get in the rut, doing the same thing every year. I think the pandemic showed us everyone that we have to get out of the rut, and we're forced to do online, live and just synchronous and asynchronous teaching and learning and that kind of thing. So sometimes we're forced to do it, but it's also good to just try something new. Just change it up because I'm like that. If I do the same thing over and over again, it just I get bored. I don't get that excited. I like present, for example, presenting. I love presenting in person, online, different topics. This is kind of a newer topic for me. Usually I present more on like topics in science and that kind of thing. So kind of like the actual teaching, it's kind of new for me. So it's something new, gets me excited to do more research and that kind of thing. So anyway, okay, reflective teaching is an example of a professional development. So PD, it's kind of, you learn, it's your own PD. We always have to go, we have to stay after school for PD and, all these PLAs and stuff like that, all these acronyms, I know, starting in your own classroom, but it's a process. And I'm gonna show you something that I do, which is kind of, I don't know many people do this. It actually has to do with teaching philosophy. Not teaching philosophy, but like how I teach. So it's kind of like a cycle here. Teach, self-assess the effect of your teaching on learning, consider new ways of teaching that can improve the quality of learning, try these ideas in practice, and of course, repeat. And I'll get that. There's my little Easter egg. I think of shampoo, always it says, repeat. And that's probably how a lot of companies, a lot of shampoo companies, Procter & Gamble, made a lot of money because, I read a lot of research on that. Does it really help your hair if you keep doing it? And a couple funny slides coming with that. Because I think it's important, though, that we repeat, try it again. If it doesn't work again, maybe the first time, you didn't know how to do it. So another person do it, you do it again and again. Keep doing it. Then of course each time you do it, maybe change it up a little bit. It never stops. Self-reflection never stops. You always could be better and do better. And so with that, my next slide, this is a cycle. It's a reflective cycle. So you're teaching, then you're self-assessing, then you're considering, then you practice. This model is actually, I can tell it's either Canadian or I think actually where I got this from was .uk. So I like the spelling of practice without the C, color and stuff like that. I love stuff like that. And you can kind of tell the culture of the slide or where it came from the spelling, or it could just be what do you call it? It could be a spelling error, like a no, I don't think so. And then teach. You get the idea that it's constantly going around and around. It never stops. That's the idea here. And then here's my joke. Course programming, I teach coding as well, so I like this kind of stuff, but it has to do with the Easter egg, kind of the shampoo thing a little bit, obviously. So the programmer got stuck in the shower because the instructions on the shampoo bottle said lather, rinse, repeat. So you get in these infinite loops and you never get out of them. We see that sometimes with some computers. I remember my first, I don't know, I'm dating myself here, 15, 20 years ago, sometimes in Microsoft, besides the blue screen of death, You know, a lot of times you get into these things where it goes, you know, you can never get out. It just keeps opening windows. Sometimes it happens on Chrome, on Chromebooks. Once in a while, I've seen that too. I'm a big computer nerd, so when I see that, I try to fix them. And so, when I see that, I try to fix them. And so, oh, I think I'm lagging a second there. Okay. Programming dies after washing hair for 72 hours straight is a joke. So kind of funny there. All right, so moving on. Okay, so here's kind of the heart of my presentation, you know, ideas. A lot of you shared this already in the chat. But here's some other ones too. If you haven't already shared this, you know, record yourself teaching. I said that, but you know, maybe just audio. Try that without video first. Then maybe do video. Another way, I've had one teacher give me an idea last year that record yourself without the sound and just kind of see what it's like, you know, your nonverbal communication, you know, kind of focus on what you're, you know, I like to use my hands a lot. So when I did that, I saw myself, you know, walking around a lot, kind of fidgety. That's good, you know, around the classroom. A lot of times I have trouble sitting still.
طب علي صوتك عشان حتى سمعت ودني مش سامعه ما تقولش قلت لك.
On mute. I'm sorry. Okay. Record yourself teaching. Share the video with your, you know, professional learning network, professional development, that kind of thing. Invite colleagues to observe you. So like I said this earlier, a lot of times it's, you know, you have to pick people to come and they have to actually observe you and write it down. And that's good too, but just do it out of the blue. Pick someone that you trust or someone you don't know very well and ask them, you know, kind of trade. That's really good. Because I think all the times I've seen this done is it's always structured. It's, you know, it's through the evaluation process and, you know, just do it because you want to do it, because you want to improve, you know, put all that stuff away. I think that's really important. Ask the students for feedback. You know, so many ways you can do that. Just talk to them. You know, what I've been doing more in the last year is just go, you know, find a lunch period in some of your students or students are not yours. Just ask them questions. What do they like? You know, I like doing this too to find out like what, you know, what makes them tick? What are they talking about that can relate to them? You know, Stranger Things, like all the things they're talking about. All the anime and whatever it is, you know, that's how I make my slides, you know, get their interest. I think it's important. Sometimes they won't put everything down on a survey, you know, either online or on paper, but we just talk to them. You know, it's hard to find time during the day to do that, but, you know, just try. Lunchrooms are powerful. Or when I'm subbing, when that's a sub of class, and some students I never had before, ask them those questions, you know, get to know them because they might be your students in the future. So that's really cool too. Ask yourself daily, how did it go? How do you know that? You know, measurable. This gets into the kind of the evaluation part of it where, you know, how do you know your students are learning? That's really, really hard. And in New York State, we have, if you know the about the regents, which is still very controversial, you know, teaching to the test. We don't want to do that, but that's kind of how they measure that. And so that's a big, you know, can we judge the teacher? Can we evaluate the teacher on how many people pass the regents and like, how do we know they're learning? That's always a challenge, I think. And then if you keep a minimalist blog, you know, this is something I just started doing. I never used to keep a blog. And then also I do this on my website. With the students see, I kind of put down things that I've done, and I don't mind if they read that. You know, it's kind of open-ended, and it just, you know, sometimes when students do read that, they kind of talk about it. I'm like, wow, that's kind of odd, you know, to talk to students about like different teaching methods, and they talk about like other teachers and like stuff they like that I do, and you know, when the class is kind of like quiet or not paying attention, you know, I could read that pretty good, but sometimes the students don't do that. You know, they'll pretend they're, you know, engaged with are they really? So it's kind of hard to get kind of looking for feedback. You got to be real creative. Sometimes a little sneaky, but you know, whatever works. Surround yourself with enthusiasm. I have no problem with that. But you know, get excited. You know, a lot of times, other students in my building, my day job when I'm teaching, you know, middle school and high school, you know, they'll walk by and like always hear me like laughing, and like some students say they don't see me laughing, something must be wrong. So I'm always, enthusiastic, always making jokes, memes, videos, movies, that kind of thing. So I kind of, some students don't like that. They are engaged that way. They don't, they don't watch movies. They don't really listen to music. So you can find different ways to kind of change it up a little bit. So that's something I've learned. I figured everyone loves that, but not always. You got to find things students that maybe don't speak enough in class, talk to them. Get their feedback. Those are the students that usually don't, they won't fill out any of the surveys, the exit tickets, to find ways to avoid doing the exit tickets. So you kind of find a way to that's sometimes your main audience, because those are the ones you really want to get engaged and figure out a way to evaluate yourself, how you can find better ways to engage them. And then diversify your metrics, find different ways to measure, either on paper, online, just having talks. So kind of, this is really a lot of great ideas here. Some of them I saw in the chat, really, really good. Some other ones, exit slips, I said, reflective journal, either online or on paper, videotaping I mentioned. This is an interesting one. Create a teacher mood board. Like how, for me, it's always going to be a happy face. I mean, I really try hard not to ever come across as having a bad day, even when I am. But some teachers just, they have a bad day. So they let their students know. I've had teachers say that, I'm just in a bad mood today. At least they're honest, right? But I try not to be that way. But I think when I'm not smiling, I think students get a little nervous. That's just me. 1 minute reflections, go around the room, or when students leave, I always try to do this too, depending on timing. But when they come in, greet them at the door, of course. And when they leave, it's important to be outside, just, ask them something. Pick a couple students each class period that you're gonna kind of maybe stop. They'll think they're in trouble. No, of course not. Hopefully not. But you ask them, what did you learn today? How was something that you wanted to learn but I didn't go over? It's kind of like get rid of the computers and the paper. Just talk with students. They sometimes begin into this groove, into this rut where everything has to be recorded on paper or online. And just talk with them. But then write it in your journal. You don't have to put their name. You can put it online, right? They might know who you are though. But an extra pair of eyes. Other teachers, like I said. Let's see what else. I think that's lots of good ideas. Some of the things I really try to do every year. I kind of look at this and what can I do differently? How can I, audio, video, so, and then here's another Easter egg. Hey, you in the mirror, we teach who we are. Developing your educational philosophy, the what, the where, the when, the how, and why. I always do that. I always who, what, when, where, why, how. With teaching and learning, always have students ask questions. And then this is from Palmer Parker, who I actually did a lot of research on when I was working at the college level more in administration. I kind of looked at spirituality, different models of spirituality with students. He's big on that, a lot of research. But anyway, my Easter egg is once I saw this slide, hey you, I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, so I always thought of that caught my eye first when I saw the slide. But looking in the mirror there, I could see a little Easter egg. But it is, hey you out there in the cold, getting lonely, getting old, can you feel me? It's a song. If you're not a Pink Floyd fan, I'm sorry. I tell my students that all the time too. But they eventually some of them become like classic rock fans because of me, and some of them don't like it. But I try to use current stuff as well. But getting old, I mean, just because you're old doesn't mean you can't be a good teacher, right? So I look at it that way too. Okay. Here's some other things. I know we're getting close to 2:30. So I want to give a chance for questions, more individual questions, but here's some other, have I set up a culture of independent learning? Lots of questions. Always think about the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. Go on Twitter if you're into social media, kind of hashtag reflective teacher and see what comes up. That's what I did to get lots of different information. Facebook, whatever you're using, from other teachers. There's just so much great information out there. Just ask yourself all these questions. Ask other teachers these questions. Ask the students some of the questions. And at the end of the presentation, and I had this on my website. I just want to quickly go through this last point here. Teaching philosophy. This is something I started probably when I first started teaching at the middle school and high school level. And what is, they always ask you what your teaching philosophy is. And mine, it's a living document. And what I do is anytime I see, I like to kind of talk in memes and videos and songs and all that kind of, that's a different presentation that I go on that. But anyway, your teaching philosophy is kind of how you're reflective, how you're reflecting on your teaching, because that's your philosophy, but it's also how you teach, why you teach, who you teach, what you teach. I try to teach as many subjects as possible, from science to sociology, and everything interests me. I try to teach everything. But anyway, what I'm getting at here is I have this on my website. Let's see here. Actually, for time, if you click on, I have on my main website, if you write this down, it's just briancraigsteinberg.com. If you write that down, on the front page, I have a link. I think I put it on the home page. If not, I will. I'm sorry, it's actually my teaching philosophy. No, it's publications and select presentations. There we go. Right at the top, if you go to my website, publications and select presentations, it says link to my 629 Course Hero presentation. And it has all my slides if you want to go into that, but also has links to my, to my teaching philosophy. You'll see that. But I find that it's a great way to kind of record, kind of like a blog, or a way that I kind of reflect. I go back and I constantly changing it, adding to it, taking things away. I find that, just for me, really, really helpful. Because, teaching philosophy, a lot of people just write a paragraph or, something on LinkedIn really quickly. But that's kind of my style. And then it's kind of, again, going back to that same cycle, keep trying. I always like to say it's fluid. It's a living document. It's always changing, that kind of thing. Kind of the same idea here. Some people, never wrote a teaching philosophy if you're a newer teacher. But I start right away, even if it's a paragraph, and I keep adding to it and see how it changes. That's why I love Google Docs, because you can go back in history and to when you started it and see, wow, look at that, I forgot about that. Maybe I want to revisit that. So you're kind of reflecting on your own, teaching philosophy. So that's kind of cool. That's how I put it in there. And that's it. So 2:32. Okay, so what questions do you have? I know we have about 13, 14 minutes. Let's see. Let me, excuse me for a second, I put glasses on my one screen. It's really small. Okay. Lots of good ideas. Yes, if you have any questions, I'm looking at the bottom of the chat right now. Okay, people commenting on the slides, good. Are the slides available? Okay, yes. You know what?
We've been dropping the link in the chat the whole time, but if people still need them, let me know. We can drop them in there.
Yes, I will do that too. Here's the direct to my teaching philosophy. That's what I was talking about. Oh, no, that's not, that's to the links to the slides. Sorry. My teaching philosophy means connected. You can see it, but here's a direct link to that to help you out. There you go there. So, and again, I use my website. I have different, this is a different website. This is my website. I also have, I will share this with you too if you want. You get some ideas. If you're a science teacher, you might like this. I'll try to give you as many resources as possible. So give me 1 second here. I will give you my school.
Then we do have a question in the chat when you're ready for it.
Okay, 1 second. Let me get this for you. Oh, it's in my. Oops. Compose. Okay. Here we go. Here's the link to my class. Okay, so let's see, where's the question?
It came in from Crystal. I can read it out if that's helpful.
Oh yeah, it keeps moving down on me.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
you did. Okay.
Crystal asks, any suggestions for new teachers trying to establish classroom authority while also connecting with students? This is hard for younger teachers. I found it hard when I started.
Same here. So for me, when I made the transition, maybe how many years ago now? 6, 7 years ago. So I'm kind of a new teacher in the middle and high school realm. I taught college for a long period of time, and kind of wanted something different. So I went to the middle school and high school, and it's the first thing that my evaluations and when I was reflecting on myself was, yes, how do you create the structure? Because in college you don't have to worry about that too much. Where the students generally behave and they talk here and there, but they're not going to disrupt the class. So coming in, what I found is creating more like the exit tickets, getting to know the students. Go out right off the bat, go over your philosophy, the rules. I never did that in college, but something as simple as have the students come up with the rules. Create a contract. I know that's different, kind of different presentation there, but that's been successful for me. I think it's just on the first day, have some fun the first day. Don't give them any homework, but kind of gain their trust. But also, that it's serious. You can't just joke around. Certainly, coming into like, let's say, new school, because a lot of times students will, they know you. So if you didn't, say your first year you weren't very authoritative, and you didn't have very good structure. You have those same students again, it gets a little harder, of course. But you can kind of just start over from scratch and try something different, something new. I've done that in the past, but create a contract. Have them sign it, have their parents sign it, and then hold them accountable. Because a lot of times I noticed where some teachers won't ever look at that again. They'll do it in the beginning of the year, then they don't. A month goes by, a couple months, and you never see that document again. Put it on your website. Put it in the classroom, and then hold students accountable when they break that. And say, you signed this, said you were going to do this, but you did this, or the class as a whole. It's good times. Halfway through the semester, maybe like in January, revisit it, maybe change some things. So kind of, again, it's a living document too. So students can kind of look at it and change it as well. In their feedback, maybe they don't like a certain rule that certain students, they still signed it, but they shouldn't have signed it. But yeah, that's good. Classroom structure, it's something I was kind of, in a later age kind of thrown into because, I made the move more from college to middle school and high school, more so middle school. I'd say 6th and 7th grade. Wow. And then more recently, 8th graders. Just, they keep me busy. I like it. You got to change it up. So it makes it fun. Something new and different. So that's good. Good. That's a great question.
Teresa had a question. Have you seen this work applied to the annual faculty evaluation process? We actually eliminated this teaching philosophy as part of the portfolio and require a faculty values action statement and critical reflection piece. May I use some of your suggestions to share with our group?
Oh, definitely. Please do, everyone. It's not secret. I have it on the website. I'm big. I like being transparent, that kind of thing. But yeah, I know evaluation processes change. I know a lot of times, like online, when I first started teaching online, all it was checklists. You just got to, just do everything to meet the checklist, and you could, get a good review, and then you could get more teachers, more classes to teach online. That was many years ago. But also too, a lot of times teachers with like tenure, and I'm not going to get into that too much, but that's just all it is checklists. And then teachers start getting, oh no, they're being evaluated. I know we're moving away from that, where it's just having conversations, and but still. Go above and beyond that. That's important too, because obviously you want to continue teaching, for a certain school or another school. You got to follow the rules. I'm not saying don't do that, but at the same time, make it part of your professional development. A lot of times when I have to put my professional development down, I have all these ideas that I put down. I've kind of, they want to see proof of that. Show give them all the links that I gave you for me. Give them the links. There's proof that it's not just a secret document that down a blog that only I can see, and whoever's evaluating me can see. Sometimes I do that as well. But I just really enjoy just asking anyone, a teacher that I don't know, maybe a teacher I know for a long period of time, just take some time and come in to my classroom, for a couple minutes, whatever they want, kind of keep it flexible. Whereas, when the principal comes in, assistant principal comes in, it could be a little nerve wracking. My first couple, when I had that, I was like, whoa, I like rehearsed my lessons to like the minute, like made it so perfect. They could see that too, they come in too when, announced and then unannounced. And, I just keep my style the same. I don't like to, I learned over the years, just, go with the flow and, follow what they want you to follow. But so that's a really good question.
There was another question that came in. I think it's Irma. I might be saying that wrong. Sorry. I use and integrate the experimental learning technique in the college after 23 years of clinical practice. What else will I do to improve more of my teaching engagement with my students?
Wow, that's good. What are some new things I've been doing? I'm trying to think some things that I've seen done. Get away from the computer. I mean, I've since COVID and a little bit after COVID, so I'd say like circa 2021 into 2022, I just kept going with the flow with, gamification and, playing everything online and with Chromebooks. And after a while, it got out of hand. So what I started doing more of is trying to go outside more. It's easy to do in some subjects than others, but I teach science, so I'm always as much as I can in the outside. I'm in Buffalo, New York, so the winters could be a little hectic, but if the students are okay with it, dress warmly. Like right now, I'm teaching summer school and we can't go outside because if you watch the news, there's smoke everywhere. You're not supposed to go outside, and so that's kind of a little bummer there. You always can't go outside. The weather might be bad, and but think of other things. Try to do things in the school. Take a tour of the school. Just change it up. Get them moving. That's how I engage them. Get them out of seats. Change the seats up. I'm always doing that, which kind of bugs some students because they like the structure. But they'll come in the classroom. I won't tell them, and sometimes I tell them sit wherever they want, but the seats are different. And then sometimes if there's problems, I'll make some changes because so and so's talking, and so I'll make changes right away. But it's kind of keep them on eggshells. That's something to keep them really engaged because it's different. They can't get into the rut. They can't sit there and just just be. They sit in the back. People that sit in the back, I force them to the front. Sometimes I sit in the back and I'll start teaching. Or in the middle, and I'll sit down. Just constantly change it up. And that does engage them, I find. Keeps them on their toes. They don't know what to expect. Sometimes I dress up, depending on what topic we're doing, and with dinosaurs, and I just try to have fun. And it's funny when they the faces they make, and I got to do more videos of those things to kind of share that. But that's good. So that's a good question.
Awesome. I haven't seen any more questions come in, but a lot of people saying thank you for how positive the approach is to reflection.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, don't be afraid to contact me. Again, I gave you the slides, but you always can email me, reach out. And then I know I was running out of time, but I have lots of questions. I shared the slide deck, lots of questions for you and examples that I found online and things like that. And go to my website. I've shared a bunch of stuff as well. So lots of resources. I try to be enthusiastic.
Not seeing any more questions. But this was fantastic. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Brian, for sharing with so much enthusiasm. Definitely felt across the screen, even though we're all virtual, you could definitely feel the excitement. So really
thank you.
That. For those who can stay with us today, we invite you to join one of our other upcoming sessions, which are available on the events agenda page, and we will drop that link in here presently. But for now, thank you all. Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for inviting me to present.
Awesome. Everybody have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.